How come we have only one student today in the class? I hope the message was communicated well. Yeah. No issues. So I think we can start the discussion. Well, we've already, because I was also slightly late in joining the class, so I feel that if what we can do is I can just write on the group that the class is going on. So in case somebody has forgotten, because it is Friday today, so we can inform everybody that ways. Just 1 second. So I think we can start, Amrita. Okay. So yesterday we were discussing about value at risk, right? And today we have to start with bond valuation. Okay. See, when we are talking about the bond market, we are talking about a situation where we can have any kinds of bond in this market. We can have the fixed rate bonds. Fixed rate bonds means that where the rate of interest is fixed in these bonds. We can have floating rate bonds where the rate of interest can be floating depending upon the benchmark rate. It can be like the LIBOR or it can be MIBOR. So based upon any particular benchmark rate of interest, the rate of this particular security, this particular bond would be decided. So that's called a floating rate bond. Or it can be a zero coupon bond. Zero coupon bond, as I discussed with you in the last class as well. These bonds do not carry any rate of interest, but they're issued at a discount from the face value. So supposing a bond is issued to you for 95 rupees, and when it is maturing, you're getting 100 rupees for that. So it is like in that way you can calculate the rate of interest. Then we have got the capital index bonds. Capital index bonds are those bonds which are indexed by the changes in the capital markets. Now, when we talk about the capital index, or these days there are inflation index bonds which have been also issued by the Reserve Bank of India. So the idea is that the return on that particular bond is going to be indexed, means that's what I was trying to say, that the return on that particular bond is going to be adjusted with the changes in the rates. Right? So that means that, like, if I'm talking about an inflation index bond, so that means that if the rate of inflation will increase by 5%, the value of that particular bond will increase by 5%. So in these bonds, generally the rate of interest is very low. They just give you a kind of this thing, a protection against either the inflation rate or the capital. So that is how these are called index bonds. Then we can have bonds with call and put options. Now call and put options means that, supposing call option means that if a bond contains a call option, that means the issuer of the bond can call the bond, that can call back the bond at any point of time now, or maybe at subject to certain conditions. That means that if we say bond with a call option, so when will it happen? It will happen in a situation where we supposing I issued a bond to you for 10% rate of interest. Now I'm paying you 10% rate of interest, but the market rate of interest drops to say 7.5 or 8%. Now I'm paying you 10% when the market rate is available at 7.5% or 8%. So in that situation, if I've issued you a callable security, I'll say that I'm ready to pay you the money, but I want I want to simply cancel this bond. So in this situation, the issuer of the bond has called back the bond. You're getting my point? This is called a bond with a call option. As opposite to that, there can be a bond with a put option as well. Put option means that where the person who has subscribed to the bond, he has been given a choice that at any point of time, if he wants, subject to certain conditions, he can also redeem his bond before maturity. Now this can be in a situation just opposite to a situation with the call option. Here, supposing we have issued a bond at 10% rate of interest, but the market rate of interest increases to 12%. In that situation, the person who has subscribed to the bond would not like to continue with the bond because the market rate of interest has gone up, right? So he would say that please redeem my money, I want to take my money back, and I would like to invest in those securities which are paying me 12% rate of interest. Then there can be certain special security which have got certain special features. As I said, there are inflation index bonds, there are gold bonds which are available. So every bond may have a different kind of features, and these are very innovative instruments which are issued from time to time to look into the requirements of both the issuers as well as the subscribers, right? So there can be different kinds of instruments which are dealt with in the bond market. But whatever kind of instruments we talk about, there would be certain concepts which would become applicable. The first is a rate of interest. This we can say it's the coupon rate of interest which is being paid by the issuer to the subscriber. And or it can be when the bonds are issued at a discount from the face value. At that point of time, we calculate yields. We do not calculate the rate of interest. So rate of interest is generally the term utilized whenever a particular bond is giving you a coupon rate of interest, right? Okay, wherever the bond has got a coupon rate of interest. Now this can be given at a fixed rate or this can be given at a floating rate of interest. So we can pay interest at a fixed rate, and we can also pay interest at a floating rate depending upon the terms and conditions which have been decided. There are certain money market instruments, as I have already discussed with you, like the treasury bills, like the zero coupon bonds, which do not carry any coupon rate of interest. They are usually issued at a discount to the face value, right? But when we talk about the capital market instruments, the difference between a money market instrument and a capital market instrument is a money market instrument is issued for a period less than 1 year and a capital market instrument is issued for a period more than 1 year. So whenever there are capital market instruments, they are generally issued at par or close to par, maybe with some premium or at some discount, but they generally carry a coupon rate of interest. Now we come to the next point, which is yield to maturity. Now yield to maturity is something which is not a very difficult concept for you now. Generally when we listen about yield to maturity, at times we find it to be very technical concept, but it is not. Yield to maturity is that rate which equates the current market price of the bond with its present value of future cash flows. So when we use the concept of IRR, at that point of time, this R we tried to calculate. You remember that? we tried to calculate this R, right? So this R was IRR at that point of time, and in the context of the bond market, we call it as the yield to maturity. Are you able to follow what I'm trying to say? Right? So therefore, it is not a very difficult concept. We can call it as the annualized yield to maturity because we are calculating it at a rate per annum. So it is generally calculated for the capital market instruments. It is the discount rate that equates present value of the annual interest rate plus par value of the obligation with the current price of the bond. You would question me that, ma'am, you were saying that in case of discounted instruments, we calculate yield to maturity. Yeah, it's same to the capital budgeting concept, Ganesh. So, but now you are saying that it is used for capital market instruments. Here I am referring to the annualized yield to maturity. Annualized yield to maturity can be calculated only for capital market instruments because capital market instruments are the instruments which are issued for a period more than 1 year, right? For the discounted instruments, we would be calculating yield to maturity but not the annualized yield to maturity. Okay, there also definitely we can annualize it, but then we will have to multiply it with 360 and divide it by the number of days for which the instrument has been issued. So when a bond's current market price is the same as its face value, then the bond's YTM is equal to the coupon rate of interest. This is what I told you in the last class yesterday also, that when I said that 100 rupees bond is issued and it is going to be redeemed also for 100 rupees, and the coupon rate of interest is 6 rupees and the discounting rate is also 6 rupees, at that time the discounting rate and the coupon rate is same, right? So there the YTM will become equal to the coupon rate of interest. Now there was a question in the December 15 examination. For the first time they asked a question on the bond market. No, they used to ask it long time back, somewhere in 2006-2007. So after around 8-10 years, they asked a question on the bond market. The following data are available for a bond. Face value rupees 1000, coupon rate of interest 16%, years to maturity is 6 years, redemption value is rupees 100, and yield to maturity is 17%. You have to find out the current market price. Now how will you calculate this? I'll be showing you the calculation, but as for you, how can we calculate the current market price? Yeah, Ganesh, I'll be explaining the difference again, but let me first take up this question. How can we find out the current market price? I'm not getting any response. Is it a very difficult question? I said that the face value of the bond has been given to us, coupon rate has been given to us, years to maturity has been given to us, redemption value has been given to us, and yield to maturity has also been given to us. If we have to find out the current market price, can't we do this? What happens? Sneha, Dipali, Amrita, Ganesh? No responses are coming? See, I have already explained this concept. Yeah, by considering the discount rate, I've already explained this concept in the last slide, where I said that current market price is equals to the present value of future cash flows. So in this situation, what are going to be my future cash flows? I'm going to get a coupon rate of interest at the rate of 16%. So for a period of 6 years, I'm going to get 160 rupees every year. And at the end of 6 years, I would be getting rupees 1000 back, right? So I simply have to discount it at the rate of 17%. I simply have to discount it at the rate of 17%. And as I discussed with you in the class yesterday, that when the rate of interest increases, when yield to maturity increases, the market price would go down. So the market price has gone down from 1000 rupees to 964.40. I hope I'm able to, I have been able to put across the point. So what we have done, this is going to be the cash flow in the 6 years. You simply have to multiply it with the discounting factor at the rate of 17% and you find the present value of the bond. That is the current market price of the bond, right? So it's not very difficult. Now going back to Ganesh's question, he was asking me that what is the difference between yield to maturity for a period less than 1 year and the annualized yield to maturity which I was talking about. See, the thing is that whenever we calculate the yield to maturity for a period of a security which is less than 1 year, what we should do, whatever is the formula that we have used earlier, YTM multiplied by 360 or 365, whatever you want to take, divided by the number of days for the security. Isn't it? That this rate of interest, this YTM has been calculated for an year, but now we have to find out that if it is for a certain period of time less than an year, in that situation, what would be the annualized YTM? You're getting my point? You're getting my point? So that's how we calculate that's how we calculate the yield to maturity when the period is less than an year. Because what will happen, like in this kind of a situation, supposing a bond would have been issued for a period of 6 months at 16% rate of interest, then you would have got 80 rupees, right? If I do the calculation, it would sound as if the rate of interest is 8%, but the rate of interest is not 8%, rate of interest is 16%. So you will have to multiply it with 360 and divide it by 180, so that you get the rate of interest of 16%. You're getting my point? Now a question for you. The dash value of a bond is the amount that the issuer must pay at maturity. The market value, the present value, the face value, or the amortized value. Which is the value that the issuer must pay at maturity? You all are brilliant students of company accounts and company law. Yeah, so the face value. Perfect. Very good. Gilt-edged securities refer to government securities, securities issued by municipal corporations, securities issued by first-class companies, or none of these. Sneha has given the right answer. It is government securities. Gilt-edged securities are the securities which are government securities. Perfect. Now, after giving you the basic concept of bonds, I want to take you to the risk management technique for bonds. This is what is my objective for today. Here I want to discuss with you a topic called duration. What is this duration all about? See, when I discussed with you the risk management with respect to bonds a little yesterday, when I was discussing with you the concept of value at risk, I told you that if I am holding a bond till maturity, then I do not have any risk, because I would be getting what has been decided as the rate of interest which I would be getting, right? Whatever has been notified to me, that interest I am already getting. But when I am holding a bond for a period which is less than maturity, at that point of time, because of changes in the rate of interest in the market, because of change, so what happens? The present value of the bond changes, right? The current market price of the bond changes, and that may put me in a situation which is either a profitable situation or a loss-making situation. Now let me give you the concept, very in a very layman terms. See, we said that supposing a 1,000 rupee bond has been purchased by me, and I am promised a 16% interest on that. So I'm sure for the next 6 years I would be getting 160 rupees, and after 6 years I would be getting the face value of rupees 1,000 back. So I'm fine with that. But supposing I do not want to keep this bond for a period of 6 years, I am planning to sell it off somewhere after 3-4 years. Okay. Now when I'm planning to sell it after 3-4 years, at that point of time, if the market rate of interest becomes 17%, the present value of the bond, as you've already seen, becomes 946 rupees. Right? So I would be earning 160 rupees of interest, but I will be having a capital loss if I sell this bond. You're able to follow what I'm trying to say? Is the point getting clear? Right. And I do not want to take that kind of a risk. How do I manage that risk? That is my question. Okay, I do not want to take this a kind of a risk. So how do I take a position on this a kind of a bond that whatever be the interest rate, if the interest rate becomes 15%, then also I'm in a no profit no loss situation. If the interest rate becomes 17%, then also I'm in a no profit no loss situation. So can I do that? So the answer to this is yes. The answer to this is yes. Now how do I do it? I will have to find out the duration of the bond. Now what does this mean? Duration is that particular period of time. That particular period of time when my gain in interest rate will completely offset my loss in the market price. You know that, if I'm going to get 17% rate of interest, definitely my interest rate has increased, right? But then I've got a capital loss. So I want to know that period when my gain in the interest rate is exactly equal to my loss in the market value, or my gain in the market value is exactly equal to my loss in interest rate. You're getting my point? Now how do I do that? Well, and this is called portfolio immunization. You immunize it by deciding that period for which you have to invest, and after that period you have to sell off that security. And mind you that this duration will keep on changing with the changes in the rate of interest. So we will always have to adjust the duration. It is not something which remains constant. So if the rate of interest changes from 16% to 17%, then I will calculate a duration. When it becomes from 17% to 15%, I will again calculate the duration. But let me just give you the concept. So what is this portfolio immunization? It is an investment strategy that tries to protect the expected yield from a security or portfolio of securities by acquiring those securities whose duration equals the length of the investor's planned holding period. Now you would say that, ma'am, okay, that's a very fantastic idea. You are telling me that in case the rate of interest increases, then I will, and if I want to disinvest, I should hold that particular security for that particular period of time in which the capital loss completely offsets the gain in the interest rate. But then I will have to choose those securities where the change is, where the duration is equal to my desired holding period. See, the thing is, if I want to invest for 3 years, and the concept of duration says that in respect of X security, you will have to disinvest it after 2 years, that does not serve my purpose. I will have to find out those securities where, my holding period is equal to the duration. Then only my portfolio will be immunized. You're getting my point? Let me give you an example over here. So assuming that you're interested in a $1,000 par value bond which will mature in 2 years. The bond has got a coupon rate of interest of 8%. So that means it pays $80 in interest at the end of each year. Interest rates on comparable bonds are also 8%. But they may fall to as low as 6% or as high as 10%. Now, if the rate of interest falls, right? So the buyer knows that whether the interest rate goes down to 6% or to 8% or 10%, he will certainly be getting $80 as interest because it's a bond. It would be paying the committed rate of interest. But when after year 1, he receives $80 with him, he would need to reinvest it, isn't it? And when he decides to reinvest it, he can reinvest it at 6% or 8% or 10% depending upon the market rate of interest. I hope I'm able to communicate the message to you. See, the thing is that supposing I am getting 80 rupees for 2 years. Now once I get the first year's 80 rupees, I will decide to invest it for a period of 1 year. Isn't it? So that I get the desired yield of 8%. So now if the rate of interest falls to 6%, the bond will earn $18 interest rates for year 1, and it will also earn $80 in interest rate for year 2. But this year 1 interest of $80 will be reinvested at 6%. Right? So in this situation, what the bondholder will earn is $80 for first year, $80 for second year, and then when the first year's interest is reinvested, he gets $4.80 and he gets $1,000 at the time of maturity. So his earning on this particular bond is 1164.80. I hope the point is getting clear. Right? If I look at the second situation, here if the rate of interest increases to 10%, again he would be getting $80 in the first year, $80 in the second year. But then the first year's $80 that he has received, he would be reinvesting it at 10%, and there he is getting $80 plus $8 plus 1,000, which he's going to get at the time of maturity. So that makes it $1168. So there is a fluctuation in his income from 1164 to 1168. And whenever there is a fluctuation, we say there is a risk. You agree with me? I do not want this kind of a fluctuation. I do not want this a kind of a fluctuation. So what do? I should hold this bond for a period for which the loss in the interest rate is equal to the gain in the price of the bond. So what do? I do portfolio immunization. So in case I've got 3, 4, 5 bonds in my portfolio, I will take the average duration of the portfolio. Average duration is simply the weighted average of the duration of the individual securities. So what will I do? I will find out the average duration of the portfolio and try to keep it as equal to the investor's desired holding period. Idea is that whether the interest rate increase or the interest rates fall, the total return of the investor should remain constant. Here, when we have immunized our portfolio of bonds by using the concept of duration, an investor can only lose if the borrower, if the bond issuer, defaults in payment of the bond. If he becomes insolvent or any such kind of a situation happens, then only our investor can be in a risk situation. But because of changes in the bond, changes in the rate of interest, the investor is not put in a difficult situation. So we saw in the example that the earnings of the investor could drop from 1168 to 1164.80. Right? Now he wants to invest in that bond where, as I said, his planned holding period is equal to the duration of that particular bond. Now, if we do that, what we will do, we will keep the investor invested, and in this situation, supposing this bond is for a period more than 2 years, but we will keep his holding period to be 2 years. You're getting my point? The maturity period of this bond, assuming, is more than 2 years, but the holding period is 2 years. Is the difference between maturity period and holding period clear to everybody? Is the difference between holding period and maturity period? Okay. So, in this situation, what we will do, this investor, I'm saying that there is a bond. Okay, just a second. When the bond is issued for a period of 2 years, that means the maturity period of the bond is 2 years. So that means that after 2 years, you would be getting the face value of the bond. Right? Supposing if the bond would have been having a maturity of 5 years, and you wanted to hold it for a period of 2 years. So your holding period can be 2 years, but the maturity period is 5 years. Now, once you want to sell off this bond after 2 years, you would be selling it not at the face value, but you would be selling it at the market value of the bond. So the difference is getting clear between the holding period and the maturity period. Okay. So now what will happen? Supposing you have invested in the same bond which has got a maturity more than 2 years. Now what will happen if the interest rates fall to 6% and your duration is 2 years? In that situation, the bond will earn $80 in the first year, $80 in the second year, and $4.80 for the interest that you will earn by reinvesting the first year's interest. And then you would be disinvesting this bond at the market price. Because the rate of interest has come down, so the market price of the bond rises to 1001 rupees 60 paisa. This we have done by simply discounting the present value of the future cash flows. Okay. So the market price becomes 1001 rupees 60 paisa. So how much will you earn on this bond? You will earn $80 for the interest in the first year. You will earn $80 as interest in the second year. You will earn $4.80 by reinvesting the first year's interest. And you would be disinvesting at the market rate of say 1001 rupees 60 paisa. So you're getting 1166.40 on this bond. Any questions, anybody? Any questions? No questions. But for these 2 years, somebody is writing something. Let me just read. He will get the fixed coupon. Yes. He would be getting the fixed coupon rate. But when he disinvests, he would be disinvesting it at the market rate. Okay. Now let the interest rate rise to 10%. When the interest rate will rise, we know that the price of the bond will fall. Okay. So what will happen? It's not the third year interest. It is by investing. You got this interest in the first year. 80 rupees you got in the first year. But your holding period is 2 years. So what you will do, this 80 rupees you will reinvest at the current market rate. So for a period of 1 year, right? आपको 80 रुपए मिल गए. अभी 80 रुपीज को आपने क्या करना है? आपको करंट मार्केट रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट पे फिर से रीइन्वेस्ट कर देना है. यू गेटिंग माई पॉइंट? ओके. So similarly, if the rate of interest will go up to 10%, then what we will do? The first year we will earn $80, the second year we will earn $80, and the first year's interest will be reinvested at the rate of 10% because the market rate is 10%. So we get $8 more as interest, and then we will disinvest this bond at the market price of 998.40. So when we do that, what are we getting? We are getting $80 for the first year, $80 for the second year, $8 by reinvesting this $80 and 998.40. So I am getting the same value, which is 1166.40. You would say that ma'am, जरूरी थोड़ी 998.40 ही होगा. You can ask me this. This 998.40 तब होगा when you are disinvesting at the duration period. So the question is कि duration कैसे निकलेगा? Question is कि duration कैसे निकलेगा? Can we measure the duration now? The concept, if it is clear, then I can measure the duration with you. समझ में आ रही है बात? Or you are just getting confused with numbers? It is getting clear. Okay. So, if I have to find out what would be the duration if the rate of interest increases to 6% or if the rate of interest increases to 10%, what would be the duration? See, the duration can be calculated by finding out the weighted average maturity of its cash flow in terms of present value. इस लैंग्वेज को यू कैन राइट डाउन, because I will explain it to you in 2-3 ways. Weighted average maturity of its cash flows in present value terms. Now what do I mean to say? Because अगर अभी इतनी सारी mathematics दिखाऊंगी तो आप confuse हो जाएंगे. So I'll take an example here which was asked in the December 15 examination. Same question. Face value 1000, coupon rate 16%, years to maturity 6, redemption value 1000, yield to maturity 17%. What is the duration? What is the current market price? You've already calculated. What is the duration and what is the volatility of this bond? I am not going to volatility right now. I am simply trying to find out the duration. What is the duration? It is the weighted average period or weighted average maturity period by finding out the present value of the future cash flows. Right? कैसे निकालना है ये? मैंने कहा weighted average. So what we have to, market price तो आपने निकाल लिया 964.40. ये तो अभी हमने पहले निकाला था. Right? Any questions on the calculation of market value? Seems to be not. Okay. So how do we find out duration? Duration को निकालने के लिए cash flow निकाला, because हमने क्या कहा, weighted average of the present value of the future cash flows. तो आपने cash flows तो निकालने ही है. अब इन cash flows को आपको discounting तो करना ही है. डिस्काउंटिंग करने के बाद आपने प्रेजेंट मार्केट वैल्यू तो निकाली ही थी 964.40. यहाँ तक तो कोई डाउट था ही नहीं, किसी को भी नहीं था. नाउ व्हाट यू हैव टू डू, you have to find out the proportion of bond value to the total value. You have to find out the proportion of the bond value to the total value. So 136.8 divided by 964.4. समझ रहे हैं? क्योंकि आपने एवरेज निकालना है तो सबका प्रोपोर्शन तो निकालना पड़ेगा. वेटेड एवरेज निकालना है, इसलिए जब भी हम वेटेड एवरेज निकालते हैं तो प्रोपोर्शन निकालते हैं. राइट? सो 136.8 डिवाइडेड बाय 964.4. जस्ट अ सेकेंड, मैं कर देती हूँ. 136.8 डिवाइडेड बाय 964.4 इज इक्वल्स टू 14.18%. तो हमने इसको ले लिया 0.142. 18 का हमने 2 कर दिया. सो 0.142. ऐसे हमने जो मार्केट वैल्यू आई उससे सबका प्रोपोर्शन निकाल दिया. एवरी ईयर्स द डिस्काउंटेड कैश फ्लो का प्रोपोर्शन निकाल दिया. कैन वी डू दैट? नो प्रॉब्लम. राइट? उसके बाद क्योंकि हमने क्या करना है, टाइम निकालना है. हमने ड्यूरेशन का मतलब क्या है, टाइम. तो अब हमने क्या करना है, वी हैव टू सिंपली मल्टीप्लाई दिस प्रोपोर्शन ऑफ द बॉन्ड विद द ईयर. सो 0.142 को मल्टीप्लाई कर दो 1 से, फिर 0.121 को मल्टीप्लाई कर दो 2 से, 0.103 को मल्टीप्लाई कर दो 3 से, एंड सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ. कर सकते हैं, बिकॉज हमें तो वेटेड एवरेज टाइम निकालना है, इसलिए टाइम से मल्टीप्लाई कर रहे हैं. वेट्स निकाल लिए, फिर टाइम से मल्टीप्लाई कर दिया. और जब ये सारा मल्टीप्लाई कर दिया, उसके बाद इनको सबको ऐड करके यू गेट द ड्यूरेशन. So duration is 4.243. That means that if you sell this particular bond after 4.243 years, then whatever will be the increase in the interest rate, that will be completely offset by the reduction in the market price of the bond. बात समझ में आई? Is it getting clear? अब हम फॉर्मूले पे जाएंगे. Once more, उसी के लिए तो बता रही हूँ, फॉर्मूला. अच्छा चलो एक बार वैसे वहीं से बता देते हैं. So, okay, now let me first go to the concept. Okay, we said what is duration? Duration is the weighted average maturity of its cash flow streams in the present value terms. Weighted average maturity of its cash flow streams in the present value terms. So हमने क्या किया, पहले कैश फ्लो निकाला, फिर उसके बाद कैश फ्लो को की प्रेजेंट वैल्यू निकाली. दैट इज फाइन स्नेहा. पहले कैश फ्लो निकाला, फिर कैश फ्लो की प्रेजेंट वैल्यू निकाली, फिर प्रेजेंट वैल्यू का प्रोपोर्शन निकाला विद द टोटल ऑफ द प्रेजेंट वैल्यू कैश फ्लो. ओके, बिकॉज वी हैव टू फाइंड आउट द वेटेड एवरेज. तो उसके लिए वेट्स निकालने पड़ेंगे. वेट्स कैसे निकलेंगे कि हर एक कैश फ्लो का कितना वेट है, हर एक कैश फ्लो का टोटल कैश फ्लो में कितना वेट है. ठीक है जी, ठीक है. सो दैट गिव्स अस द वेट. और अब हमें निकालनी क्या है, एवरेज मेच्योरिटी निकालनी है. सो फॉर दैट व्हाट वी हैव टू डू, we have to multiply the weights with the period, because we have to find out the weighted average maturity. So what we have done, we have multiplied this weight, which is the proportion of bond value, with the year, then proportion of bond value with the year 2, then proportion of bond value with the year 3. So 3 multiplied by 1.03 is equals to 0.309. Is it getting clear? ये जब हमने किया तो हमें पता चल गई वेटेड एवरेज मेच्योरिटी. ठीक है. नाउ इफ यू गो टू द फॉर्मूला, so it can be it is also defined as the maturity of an equivalent zero coupon bond. इसको छोड़ देते हैं अभी, क्योंकि उसमें कूपन ही नहीं होता है, तो उसकी मेच्योरिटी तो डेफिनेटली उसकी यील्ड पर डिपेंड करती है. बट लेट अस नॉट लुक इनटू दैट स्टेटमेंट राइट नाउ. So how do we calculate duration? We try to find out the present value of the future cash flows, and then whatever is the present value of future cash flows, we divide it with the total of the future cash flows, and then we multiply them, each year's cash flow, with their year. So first year with number 1, second year with number 2, third year with number 3, and so on and so forth. The formula is getting clear now? Is the formula getting clear now? Okay. So where present value of CT is the present value of cash flow receivable at the end of year T, and V0 is the present value of all the future cash flows, right? And then we multiply it with 1, 2, 3, 4 and up to n, which is the number of years. Now what we have to do is, we have to find out that particular, we have to find out that with the change in the interest rate, how much will be the change in the value of the bond. Right? Now my question is, I want to know that with the percentage change in the interest rate, what would be the percentage change in the value of the bond. I do not want to do this calculation again and again. I've done it once. Right? I've done the calculation once. I've calculated the duration. अब मुझे ये पता करना है कि अगर इंटरेस्ट रेट 1% चेंज होता है तो बॉन्ड की वैल्यू कितने परसेंट चेंज होगी. राइट? So the formula for that, this is also called the volatility or the sensitivity measure of the bond. ठीक है? Because हमारे risk analysis में what is most important to us is to find out the volatility. So percentage change in the market value of the bond, percentage change in the market value of the bond is equals to its duration minus its duration, because the bond value and the rate of interest, volatility and sensitivity are the same thing, because the price of the bond and the rate of interest, they move in opposite directions. You know this. When the interest rates increase, the value of the bond goes down. When the interest rate go up, the value of the bond goes down. Right? So in that, therefore we are using a minus here, because there is an inverse relationship between the two. Okay? So percentage change in the value of bond is equals to minus duration multiplied by, duration is the number of years that we have already calculated, multiplied by the change in interest rate divided by 1 plus yield to maturity. Change in interest rate डिवाइडेड बाय 1 प्लस बेस इंटरेस्ट रेट होना चाहिए. यहाँ पर यील्ड टू मैच्योरिटी नहीं होना चाहिए. दिस इज बेस इंटरेस्ट रेट. सॉरी, ये मैंने चेंज किया था, यहाँ पर शायद नहीं हुआ है. This is the base rate of interest at which the bond was issued. Duration multiplied by change in interest rate divided by 1 plus base interest rate. So therefore, this concept is clear. Volatility कैसे measure करनी है? इसके ऊपर let me show you the solution first and then we go further. So in order to find out volatility, what I have to do, सॉरी एक सेकेंड रुकना, एक मिनट. ओके, सो या सो बिफोर आई टेक इट फॉरवर्ड, वो मैं गलत बता दूंगी. पहले मैं आपको कॉन्सेप्ट पूरा बता देती हूँ. इट इज नॉट बेस्ड इंटरेस्ट रेट, इट इज द यील्ड टू मैच्योरिटी ओनली. सॉरी. नाउ द फॉर्मूला इज करेक्ट. सो हियर व्हेन आई से इसमें से अगर मैं ड्यूरेशन डिवाइडेड बाय यील्ड 1 प्लस यील्ड टू मैच्योरिटी उठा लूं, इफ आई पिक अप दिस, मैंने वो ठीक से नहीं बनाई थी लाइन. If I pick up this duration divided by 1 plus yield to maturity, तो आपको नहीं लगता कि once I get this number, I would be able to find out a relationship between change in interest rate and change in the value of bond? Right? I can find out the relationship between change in the interest rate and change in the value of bond if I am able to pick up duration divided by 1 plus yield to maturity. So this is called duration divided by 1 plus yield to maturity is called modified duration, and this is the indicator of the volatility of the bond. So ये थोड़ा सा मैं जो है ना गलत बता जाती, इसलिए I just corrected myself. So duration divided by 1 plus yield to maturity is the indicator of the volatility of bond. This is the sensitivity. And if I want to know percentage change in the value of bond, then what I should do? Modified duration multiplied by the change in yield. So once I've calculated the modified duration, then I'm fine. Right? Then I can find it out for any change in yield. Isn't it? Now let me go to the question. So now if I have to find out, the question was, okay, let me go back to the question. The question was, you have to find out the market price, that we have done. You have to find out the duration, that also we have done. Then you have to find out the volatility of the bond. So अब याद आ रहा है, volatility of bond is equals to duration divided by 1 plus yield to maturity. Right? Right? ठीक है? So what we did? माइनस साइन की जरूरत नहीं है so far as you're calculating modified duration. When you will be calculating the percentage change in the price of the bond, then you will be calculating the minus sign. ठीक है? ठीक है? So volatility निकालने के लिए, volatility को ही हम modified duration भी कहते हैं. So modified duration या volatility को निकालने के लिए you do not need this minus sign. Simply take duration divided by 1 plus YTM. Duration is 4.243, ये हमने पहले निकाला था. YTM has been given to us as 17%. So volatility of this bond is 3.63%. यानी कि अगर इंटरेस्ट रेट 1% से बढ़ेगा तो बॉन्ड का जो प्राइस है वो 3.63% से नीचे जाएगा. ठीक है? ठीक है? Now, the question went further and the question asked us that also calculate the expected market price if increase in required yield is by 75 basis points. Increase in the yield. So that means the market price will, when the yield will increase, the market price will, what will happen to the market price? Come on. will decrease. Perfect. Very good. So in this situation, what will happen? If the market price will if the required yield is increased by 75 basis points, तो हम क्या करेंगे? Market price will fall. अभी मैंने market price कितना ले रखा था? When my YTM was 17%, my market price was 964.40. Right? So 964.70 was my market price. Now I have been given, with the help of formula, what I can say, the new market price would be equal to modified duration multiplied by the change in the interest rate. So change in the interest rate is 75 basis points. That is, अभी 964 को छोड़ दो, ठीक है, सिर्फ इतना सा लो, ये वाला. अभी हमारा फॉर्मूला क्या कहता है कि the percentage change in the price would be how much? It is change in interest rate multiplied by modified duration. है कि नहीं? Basis point I've already explained to you, but I'll come back to you again on this. पहले इसको समझ लेते हैं. So modified duration is 3.63 and change in the interest rate is 75 basis points. So 0.75 multiplied by 3.63 divided by 100, because हमें percentage में निकालना है. So ये होगा percentage change in the price. Existing price is 964.40. So I multiply it with the percentage. So the price will fall because the interest rate has increased by 26.25. So the new market price would be 938.15. Now what is a basis point? Basis point is 1 basis point is equals to 0.01%. 100 basis points is equals to 1%. This is the language that we use in the financial markets. Financial markets we do not say that the interest rate has increased by 1%. We say that the interest rate has increased by 100 basis points. 1% is equals to 100 basis points. So 75 basis points is equals to 0.75%. ठीक है? So ये जो interest rate था आपका, वो 17% से बढ़कर के 17.75% अगर हो जाता है, तो new market price क्या होगा? So then the new market price would be 938.15. Is it getting clear now? Right? So the concept of duration should be clear. The concept of modified duration or volatility should be clear. Once we have the volatility, we can simply find out the change in the market price by the change in the rate of interest. ठीक है जी? So the conclusion is that if I invest for a period where my holding period is equal to the duration, in that situation, whatever I earn extra by increase in the rate of interest is completely offset by the decrease in the market price of the bond. Right? That is what is the concept of duration trying to teach us. That for every rate of interest, you can find out the duration and then you can disinvest that particular bond at that particular point so that the capital gain or the capital loss is completely offset by the interest rate loss or the interest rate gain respectively. Immunization using duration seems to work reasonably well because the largest single element found in most interest rate movements is the parallel change in all interest rates. All interest rates का मतलब ये है, all interest rates का मतलब ये है कि interest rate for a short period or a long period, generally they move parallel to each other. अगर एक बढ़ता है तो दूसरा भी बढ़ता है. Interest rate on corporate debentures and interest rate on government securities, even they move in a parallel shift to each other. एक बढ़ेगा तो दूसरा भी बढ़ेगा. So the investors can achieve reasonably effective immunization by approximately matching the duration of their portfolios with their planned holding periods. So if they decide to keep the duration and the holding period same, there would be no risk. But this duration is not free. Why? Because it has got an opportunity cost. So if it would have happened that if अगर हमने duration के हिसाब से नहीं काम किया होता, in that situation there were chances that the investor could earn 1168 as well. लेकिन क्योंकि हम ड्यूरेशन पर आ गए तो हमने उसको 1165 पर फ्रीज कर दिया, ना हमने उसको 1164 लेने दिया, ना हमने उसको 1168 के लिए छोड़ा. So what we want to say is that this concept of duration, it is a mechanism to give you a stable return. But in that process, you may lose out the chance of earning a very high return as well, because the returns have been stabilized. There is no risk. So when there is no risk, definitely the opportunity for getting the higher return is also lost. Right? Clear? So the problem with duration is that many a times it is very difficult to find out those securities or those portfolio of securities where my holding period matches the duration, right? And for that, because the yields also keep on changing, and therefore my portfolio requires constant adjustments. So those people who deal in the bond market, they have to buy and sell these bonds, adjust their durations, adjust their bond portfolios on a very regular basis if they really want to be risk averse and completely eliminate the risk because of the changes in the interest rates. Many a times what happens is that the bonds are callable in nature. So even if my holding period is 3 years, but if the company calls the bond in 2 years, there can be an unexpected change, and this may reduce my portfolio's average duration. So therefore, though we cannot completely forecast the path of the future interest rates, but still we can definitely use the concept of duration, but we cannot say that it is just the perfect solution to all the problems. This concept itself has got various limitations, but in general this is a very widely used concept. Many of the portfolio managers are using this concept, and it works more or less fine, if not perfect, but it is to a very great extent a fine concept, right? So the concepts are clear with respect to the bond market now. Any questions? Because I am ending this PPT here. Any questions on the bond market? Is it fine? Okay. Now I've got two choices because we've got time, so I think we can start the next topic of security analysis. But in the meanwhile, till the time the PPT is getting uploaded, I simply wanted to ask the question that what would be the topic for tomorrow's FTFM exam preparatory? Or are we having that exam preparatory or not? Can I get some responses? Let it be for next week. Yeah, Dipali. Yes means what? Yeah, there is less time for revision. I agree. That is why I asked this question. Or should we keep this exam preparatory during the week? Then it will be difficult. Because time भी तो नहीं होगा ना, हर रोज क्लास होती है. We can have, Dipali saying, but then for what topic? Can we have the exam preparatory for working capital management again? Why not in the next week, whole of the security part? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Working capital management, Sneha, I think we have had 2 times already. So काफी ज़्यादा हो गया अब तो. Yeah, Dipali and Sneha, I'm okay with whatever you say. If you're not ready with security analysis, we can repeat any of the topics which we have already discussed earlier, if you want that. And exam preparatory is tomorrow only. So think before you give a commitment. Ma'am, in exam, questions can increase in length can also for next preparatory. Yeah, that is a good idea. I can make it a 1 hour exam preparatory on security analysis next week. What do you say? That makes sense to me. There should be no choice. My God, Ganesh is becoming too strict now. Institute also gives you a choice. Hanji. So I think I am in agreement with Ganesh's point. Let us keep a 1 hour exam preparatory on the next 1 hour test and then the discussion class on security analysis on the next Saturday. Rather than having a half an hour's question paper, let it be a 1 hour question paper. Does it suit everybody? Dipali is proposing for tomorrow. So tomorrow, what topic, Dipali? That is my problem. I'm okay with tomorrow as well. I'm fine, whichever way you say. I'm free. Topic बताइए. If you want it again for working capital, I have no problems with that as well. Okay. What topic, Dipali? Come on, we have to close it fast. We have to start the next topic. Dipali, I'm waiting. Theory and sums of security analysis. Can I get the response from Ganesh and Sneha? Hanji, Sneha, come on. Absolutely. I'm waiting for Sneha's response. We haven't done much of security analysis, I guess, till now. Yep, that's the issue. I think if it is on me now, I think that Dipali, we should give it a break and we should keep a 1 hour test on next Saturday with complete security analysis in it, so that we are thorough with the concepts also. By that time, everybody would have revised the concepts very well. And then when it will be a 1 hour exam preparatory, I would be able to evaluate you on various aspects of theory as well as practical. So I think that should be fine. Rather than, keeping it tomorrow, we would be keeping it on the coming Saturday. That makes more sense for a period of 1 hour. ठीक है जी, चलिए. So now we continue with security analysis. We are not going anywhere else. We are just continuing with the same concept, but with the topic security analysis. So bond market is over. In the bond market also we had got certain securities. So we are here now talking more from the perspective of the capital markets, that is the equity market, right? Because there's not much of a fluctuation in the bond market, and majorly the change in the prices is affected only by the rate of interest, and therefore the fluctuation in the price is also not much. But when we talk about capital markets, in the capital market the price fluctuates very, very much, right? So the fluctuation is very high, and there are n number of factors which impact this price of a security in the equity markets. So let us try to understand the dynamics of this equity market. Now when we talk about the equity market, as you all must be very, very aware, equity market has always been a charm for many, many investors, Rather, I think each one of us at one point of our life wants to participate in this equity market because this is the market which can give us the maximum return, right? So therefore, most of the people would want to invest their money and get a handsome return out of this market. So because there are n number of people who are there in this market, so there are different approaches that people have. Now today, in the morning, I was telling my daughter to prepare for an unseen dictation in the school. So she said that my friends laugh at me because you make me prepare for an unseen dictation. Because if I've not seen the words, then what am I preparing for? So I just told her that, see, God has created so many human beings. Why? Because He wanted to create different kinds of people. Isn't it? If He simply wanted one kind of a person, then He would have created one person. Because He has created various people, that means people are bound to be different from each other. Isn't it? So if the people are bound to be different from each other, so one person will prepare for an unseen dictation, another will prepare for an unseen, for a maths quiz, the third one will prepare for an unseen quiz for science. That completely depends upon your taste, right? So am I audible to all of you? Can you hear me? Okay. So that means that, so when we have large number of people, now why am I giving you this example? When we have got large number of people in the stock markets, so different people have got the different perceptions. Different people have got the different perceptions on how they can make money and how they can find out the fair value of a particular security. How they can find out the fair value of a particular security, or how they can find out the price, the future price of the security. Right? So for that, they have given different approaches. There have been people who, now these approaches have been given by, the academicians, they have been given by the practitioners, they have been given by the investors. So all of them together, we'll just try to understand. You may agree with one approach, you may not agree with the other approach. Effectively, I think in the market, all the approaches work at different points of time. That's my understanding. You may not agree with me. So when we talk about various approaches, the first approach that I'm going to discuss with you is going to be fundamental approach. In the fundamental approach, we will do EIC analysis, where E stands for economy, I stands for industry, and C stands for company analysis. Now what does this mean? The people who support fundamental analysis, they say that the price of the security is going to be decided by, like if I want to know that what is going to be the price, or what should be the fair price of a particular security, I must first analyze the general economic scenario of the economy in which that particular company is working. So like if a company is working in India, in that situation they will look at the growth rate in India, the inflation rate in India, and the employability rate, the employment rate in India, the GDP of India, and they will just try to see that what is the growth story of our country. And that is why, whenever we talk about foreign institutional investors investing in India, we say that India is a very fast growing economy, and that is why people are wanting to invest in India. So they do an economy analysis. That is fine. Then after having identified, now when they do economy analysis, they might be comparing various economies, like we compare India and China and Japan and whatever. So we can compare various economies, and after doing the analysis of various economies, we can identify that, okay, in this particular economy I want to invest, or in these two economies I want to invest. Clear? Now, having identified the economy, then I should try and see that within that economy I should compare the different industries which are there. So in Indian markets, I will compare the IT industry, then I will compare it with the with a heavy iron and steel industry, then I will compare it with sugar industry or food processing industry or textile industry or pharmaceutical industry, and try to understand how that particular industry is doing, right? Having compared 15, 20, 25 different industries, then I will pick up some 2, 3, 4 industries out of that industry analysis, and in those industries, then I will analyze the various companies. Like for example, if I am doing the analysis of pharmaceutical industry, so then I will compare Ranbaxy, and I will compare Nicholas Piramal, and I will compare many other pharmaceutical companies like Aurobindo Pharmaceuticals, Sun Pharma, a lot of them, right? So we can compare different industries, different companies in that industry, and then we can decide that in these particular companies, which are the shares which are undervalued, because we want to buy those shares which are undervalued, right? So that is the first way, that is called the fundamental approach, which works upon the fundamentals, right? It is not talking about any kind of rumors, it is not talking about any kind of sentiment of the market. It is simply talking about the fundamentals. Okay, that's called a fundamental analysis. Then there are different set of people. The second set of people, as I said, that there are different kinds of people. So the second set of people, they say that we do not believe in fundamental approach. Market works completely on sentiments. As per them, the behavior, they try to study the behavior of the people who are investing in the markets. And I'll just share with you an instance. A few days ago, I met a group of people coming from a particular company. I do not remember the name of the company, but they had a very interesting proposal. They told me that the company is based out of Singapore, and what they're doing, they've created an app, and in that app, they once you log in that app, you would be given certain information and certain prices of various you would be given the various exchange rates, like the dollar, the pound, the rupee, and those exchange rates would be given to you, and you would be asked to take a position on those interest rates, whether you would on those exchange rates, whether you buy, or whether you would like to buy a particular exchange. That means whether you would like to, at this particular point of time, would you like to buy dollars, would you like to sell dollars. So you would be given, so you can take a position. It's a completely hypothetical thing. Your money is not getting invested. Simply you are playing a game. Okay, and by playing a game, you are buying or selling for an exchange. And the student or the person who is able to master in their technique and is able to make high profits in that particular game, that student would move from first level to the second level to the third level, and so on and so forth. And why they were doing that game, I just asked them how is it going to benefit you. They said that we are looking forward to find out the psychology of the best brains, the people who are able to make good profits or high level of profits by investing and disinvesting at the right time. We simply want to understand their psychology, and based upon their psychology, we want to advise our clients to take positions in those currencies. You're able to follow what I'm trying to say. The students or the people which I am trying to, which they were targeting, they were not the students of finance. They were not the students of finance. They were simple laymen. They may or may not have any background. They may or may not understand a currency. They should understand the game, right? And for that, they were giving around, I think, some 30 minutes of a demo video. And in that 30 minutes of demo video, you will understand that what does buying mean, what does selling mean. If you want to buy, which button you have to press, and if you want to sell, what button you're going to press. Right? So that what I'm trying to explain over here is that what they were working on, they were working on the technical approach. As per them, market works on the behavior of the investors and not on the fundamentals. As per them, the market works on the behavior of the investors. What the majority of the investors are going to do, that will decide the price of a particular security or a particular currency in the market as per the technical approach. Are you able to follow what I'm trying to say? Though we would be discussing it in greater detail. The third concept which I'm going to discuss with you is the efficient capital market theory. I'll be taking it up again when we discuss this particular concept. Right? So, having given you this introduction about security analysis and the way we're going to take it forward, I would be starting with a discussion on fundamental analysis in the next class. Right? So, basically, this is going to be a very interesting, topic, where we would be talking from the perspective of different kind of people who believe that the market moves in a particular way because of certain factors, right? So the fundamentalists believe that the market moves because of the fundamentals of the companies or the fundamentals of the industry or the fundamentals of the economy. Technical analysts believe that the market moves because of the behavior of the investors. And the efficient capital market theories will try to bring in all these forces together and give you a direction towards how the markets really behave. So with this, I think I would be closing for today. Which is more practicable is a very difficult question to answer. But when I would be discussing with you the efficient capital market theory, or towards the end, I will tell you that the fundamental approach is more practical if you want to go for a long-term investment, and the technical approach is more practical if you're looking for a short-term investment. Right? So short-term here does not mean intraday. It can be somewhere in the range of a month or one and a half month as well. Yeah, the security market is very, very risky, and this is the market which has made Warren Buffett. This is the market which has made Rakesh Jhunjhunwala as Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. So therefore, definitely this is one market which is like a magic for many people. And people feel that, so everybody wants to learn the technique, and therefore people try and experiment and give up and come up. Lot of things happen in this market. It's a very, very fascinating market for many people, and we would be continuing with this market in the next class, right? So with this, I think we close here. See you tomorrow. See you now on Tuesday for FTFM class, where we would be continuing with this topic. I would be taking the full complete week, that is the next week. I would be first starting with security analysis, and then I will be moving to portfolio management. So Tuesday and Thursday both we would be spending on security analysis and portfolio management. So I want you to start reading these topics, because if I am going to take a 1 hour exam preparatory on Saturday and we finish off the topic on Thursday, you would be having a limited time. So start your studies of this topic so that when we take it in the classes, you are able to grasp it faster. The concept is confusing. Which concept is confusing, Ganesh? Security concept is confusing. What is a security? Whole chapter is confusing. So we'll try. अभी तक का जो पढ़ा है वो समझ में आ गया या उसमें भी कुछ confusions हैं? That's what I'm trying to understand. I'm talking only about study material. See, इस चैप्टर को अगर स्टडी मटेरियल कंफ्यूजिंग लग रहा है, डोंट स्टडी इट फ्रॉम स्टडी मटेरियल. इफ यू कैन हैव एन एक्सेस टू फिशर जॉर्डन, इट्स अ वेरी ब्यूटिफुल ऑथर on this concept. It's a very interesting concept. I do not want you to get confused with this concept. Fisher Jordan की book आती है by the name of Investment Analysis and Portfolio Management. Khan and Jain is also fine, बट फिशर जॉर्डन कभी अगर नहीं अभी आपके पास एक्सेस है, बाय चांस कहीं अगर इस बुक को देखो तो मेक इट अ पॉइंट टू गो थ्रू इट. मतलब दिस इज लाइक अ बुक दैट यू मस्ट रीड. So जब भी टाइम मिले, as a student of security analysis and portfolio management, you must have a look at this book. It's a fantastic book. Though I do not pressurize you to buy so many books, and there are many people who do not have an access to the library. Online try कर लेना. कई बार ऐसा होता है कि कुछ books आपको e-books form में मिल जाती हैं. So in case you are able to find it on an e-book, because it's a very old book, तो हो